Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So I'm just here to do a quick tutorial on a new like booklet, fold out, pocket kind of idea. I'm not quite sure what to call it, but I just thought I'd come along and share it with you. So I'm just going to show you a couple that I've made so far, and then we will make one together. So basically, if I show you the kind of plain one first, what it is basically I've taken kind of an A4 sheet of paper and obviously kind of made it into a pad, but instead of kind of, you know, lumping them together as a conventional pad, I have staggered them like that, and then I've stitched them down the center. So I've got my sewing machine here for the purposes of the tutorial in a moment. So that's that one. In fact, what I'll do, we'll make it first, and then we'll kind of have a look at closing options and things like that. So this is just an A4 sheet of paper. I can't remember now the GSM, but it's kind of thicker than copy paper, but not as thick as card. So it's been coffee dyed and obviously ironed. So basically we just literally fold it over in the first instance like that, and then there's no right or wrong here, so I just kind of eyeball it where I think I would kind of like the, you know, the pages to be, the kind of sizes that I want them to be. And I mean, they don't even have to be the same size. You could have kind of a longer one and then kind of a couple of shorter ones, completely your choice. So I'm just going to cut it kind of, you know, very roughly into kind of what looks to me a bit like thirds. And as you can see, I now have a kind of smaller part here because obviously my eyeballing it was so way off. I'm just going to kind of straighten that slightly because it looks a bit skew. Let's have a look there. Okay. And that one doesn't look too bad. Obviously always a bit of a nightmare. No. Sorry, I can't speak now today. Always a bit of a nightmare doing it on camera. Just get my carrier bag for the rubbish. I'm at my son's desk again, so I like to bring a bag along to put my rubbish in. Right. So then basically what we're going to do is just kind of line them up where we would like them. Now obviously we want them to fit onto a page. So I'm kind of thinking, you know, something along the lines of that. So we'll just see how that looks at the front. I mean, obviously the ideal is to have these two roughly the same distance kind of poking up. But aside from that, I really don't think it kind of matters how it is. So I might just put it slightly higher, so as we kind of have slightly more poking up, and make it a longer piece. And then what I'm going to do, now I have to confess, I didn't actually bother doing this when it was just me, but because I am actually filming it, I will do this and hold it together. So just to kind of hold it in place, I'm just going to literally paper clip it to the side, like that. And then I'm going to take it to my sewing machine. So I'm going to try and bring my sewing machine. Now, I don't know whether this is in frame, not in frame. Perhaps I will have the sewing machine. Perhaps I'll have the sewing machine to the side, if that's okay with you guys. Because this really is only going to take a moment. And I'm just going to stitch kind of as if we're doing, you know, a signature. So I just do that quickly now. Oops, it's going a little bit fast. Slow it down so that I've got slightly better control. Okay. And then we'll take it out like that. So if I just move all that out to the side a little bit. Now my lamp is kind of moving all over the place, so sorry about that, because obviously I'm just on this little desk, so everything's kind of bashing into each other as I'm doing this. Right, undo the paper clips, move them out to one side. So as you can see, I've now got my kind of booklet pocket thing pad. As I say, I don't really know what to call these. So I'm just going to trim that off like that. And obviously here at the edges, it's just kind of overhanging slightly where obviously they're inside one another. So I'm just going to kind of trim that down the side so it's a bit neater. Just get rid of my rubbish to the side. And then I will show you here kind of the ones that I have already done with the kind of closing options that I kind of looked at. So, I mean, obviously my favourite thing of all is decorating. So I have obviously decorated these. So we will have a look in a moment and kind of possibly decorate this one. But here what I've done, this one of my match, you know, match top box tops printables, and these are my tea time printables. So basically I've obviously fussy cut them out, and this one I have popped as a kind of tuck for the match book box top to go in there. So it's kind of like a little pocket on the front that holds that like a kind of big giant tag. So I quite liked that. And then I fussy cut out obviously some more from the tea time kit and just popped those flowers up there. And then what I've done, as you all know if you watch my channel regularly, I love string, love tying things up. So I just literally took a length of string, glued it on the back of just the outer flap, if that makes sense. So just the bottom one, which is obviously the longest, you know, the well, the longest and also the outer one, if that makes sense. So I just glued the string down and then obviously tie it up. So that's kind of how that would be, like that. So if I just kind of bring a journal here. So I've got here my Beatrix Potter one that I'm working on, and I've kind of half glued the cover but haven't quite finished. Right, so if I kind of show you how that will look, so let me find a plainer page. So basically you would then glue it on just this bottom flap. So it would be glued onto the page, and then obviously you could undo the string, and then you've got different flaps there. So again, a lot of room there for journaling. And then, you know, if you didn't like the appearance of this here, you could always stick something over here, maybe another pocket or something. So I will show you another one that I have done, or I will show you in fact the other two that I've done with the closure options, so that you'll get what I mean by that. So I'll just move this one to the side. So this is the second one, which basically it's exactly the same. As you can see, it's slightly smaller, slightly shorter, so but it was made exactly the same. It's just that each flap is kind of more equal in distance. And then the closure here, so all I've done is literally stamped a little bit of decorative stamp down the side, and then I took some scrapbook paper and just literally a small rectangle piece, stuck it around, and then created a flap, which then I've popped on some lace and again one of the safety match box tops, and that just goes behind there like a closure. So when you undo that, then you've got your 3 flaps like that. So again, you would just glue that onto the page in exactly the same way down there. So, you know, I mean, I think they're just quite a fun kind of addition to a journal. Obviously, you wouldn't even have to stick them in. You could just kind of paper clip them to the side, you know, pop them kind of in an envelope or something. This is where I find it won't actually fit in here. But I'm sure that you get the idea. So, you know, you could have them as a kind of pull-out item in a journal rather than actually stuck to the page if you didn't want to have them stuck in. But I just think they're super fun, really, something kind of a bit different. Now I'll just show you the last one, which I have kind of made into both a booklet and a pocket. So this particular one, I made it in exactly the same way. I've got the A4 sheet and I've cut it down and I've stitched down the side. And then all I actually did was took a sheet of 12 by 12 paper, cut a thin strip off. I stuck the strip across down on the back, and then all I have done here is stitched around the edge so that these are actually forming a pocket. Now I did also glue them kind of at the top so that it held it in place, if that makes sense. And then what you would do here, so if I show you again, you would obviously glue it down on the page. You could then have it as a kind of side pocket as well. So I would kind of glue it down like that. You'd have it then as a side pocket here, whoops, where you could pop things in there. And then you would undo this little mechanism, and you've got your journaling space here, and then you've got more journaling here, and then you've got these little pockets which are just kind of room enough to pop these little tickets in, or you know, whatever else that you wanted to pop in there. So I mean, I just think they're quite fun. I think probably this is the most complicated of the closures in my mind. So, you know, I think perhaps we'll do one of those to kind of just show you how that worked. So I will move this stuff out of the way like that. And I will pull in some 12 by 12 paper. Now the only thing that I've just realised I've done here is I've made obviously a very long one. So the 12 by 12 is probably not going to be anywhere near big enough to actually wrap around here, which is obviously going to be a bit of a problem. So if I just cut a length of the 12 by 12 paper, like that, and then probably now what we'll need to do is actually trim this down so that it kind of fits slightly better. Right, we're quite a long way off. Right, this is the beauty of doing a tutorial when it all goes wrong. Let's make another one so that I can demonstrate it properly rather than kind of trying to glue the paper together, because that may just confuse people. So it will certainly confuse me doing it on video. So right, we will take another one. So we've got, again, A4 sheet of paper, coffee dyed. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to make it much smaller this time. So I'm going to cut down so hopefully we've got a much smaller piece. So that we can kind of make this mechanism here. So that one I think is the biggest piece. Now you see, what we want to do is make sure that we've got enough to play with to get this to kind of wrap around. Here. So if we kind of squash that down slightly more, like that. So I will just check from the front that they look roughly kind of, you know, similar size, so it doesn't look really strange. And okay, and then I will just paper clip that together while we stitch it on the sewing machine. Now it's always tricky doing tutorials because you know, when things don't go to plan, then it does get a bit confusing, so I do apologise if that was at all confusing kind of for people. It was not meant to be confusing, but sometimes that's just how it kind of goes when you're doing tutorials. But right, just backstitch that. Okay. I'm going to actually move my sewing machine off of the desk so that I'm no longer bashing into it and kind of trying to avoid it. So let me check that I'm still in frame, because that will be the next thing. I'll then discover that I've done all of this out of frame. So we can take the paper clip off, obviously trim the excess thread, and I'm just going to trim this side down again where now those pages were kind of hanging slightly longer than the outer pages. So press it down, make sure it's down neatly. And now we'll take again our scrapbook paper, and then what we can do is fold this like that. Okay, and then what we need is obviously something to tuck it into. So again, I've got some more of my little Matchbox tops. I quite like this little one with the lion, so we use that one. So we will do that in a moment. So the first thing I'm going to do is, obviously this is our little booklet now, and we're going to make this back mechanism with the pockets. I hope this is making sense. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick with glue the very top of the bottom, piece of paper. I hope this is making sense. Now my glue is clogged up. It is going to be one of those tutorials, I'm afraid, so I just can only apologise. This is not going well. Right, let me unclog the glue. Okay, right, hopefully the glue will work now. That would be something, wouldn't it? Right, okay. So we're going to literally glue along, so as we've attached page number 2, if that makes sense, to the top of there. And then what we're going to do is pop down the top layer, and we're just going to glue that again along there. And this is really just to make it easier for sewing purposes. So, and I obviously had not really thought of that when I just moved the sewing machine onto the floor. So let me grab the sewing machine back. I do apologise for this. It's very scatty, obviously, but I was excited to come and do a tutorial for these, so I hope that you'll just kind of bear with me. Right, so I'm just going to literally stitch straight around the edge of all of those pages together. So literally we're just sewing a kind of square, and obviously it's not really necessary to stitch the bottom, but it's just purely so as it looks neat why I'm doing that. So just get that slightly faster, and then up the other side, so kind of the side next to the centre line, stitching around like that. Nearly done. Okay, and then back down to meet the first line, just back stitch that off. Okay, we'll just move that out the way. Right, okay, now I'll move my sewing machine out of the way. Hopefully won't need that back again. Let me check I'm in frame. Yep, okay, so I'm going to now trim just these bits of thread off because they are very long. Now, obviously at this point, you know, I mean, you don't actually even have to have a closure as, you know, as such. You could just literally pop it in like a pocket and then do an altered paper clip. and that would hold it closed. So if I just bring the book back to kind of demonstrate that. So you see, you could just literally stitch around there and hold it closed with a paper clip. But I rather liked the idea of the kind of closure. So I will show you how to kind of do that. So we've got our 12 by 12 sheet of paper, like that. And then what I'm going to do, I will just kind of press that down so that it's, you know, properly held. And then all I'm going to do is stick that onto the back of our new kind of back pocket piece. So ideally I would like to have obviously the longer piece at the bottom, so that's that one. So all I'm going to do is literally glue that, and I just be nice and generous with the glue so that it's going to be nice and stuck down. Oops. And then literally pop that down like that. So then we can just pop that down with the glue. Okay, and then what we're going to do is make our little folding kind of closure. I mean, obviously the great thing about these, you could have it up the other way if you wanted, you know, and folding out that way, and then you would have top loading pockets. So just to kind of demonstrate that, you'd have your top loading pockets like that. I have just done it this way because I thought it was rather fun, having them as the kind of bottom loading ones. But, you know, obviously completely your choice how you would want to have it. And as I say, you know, it's nice to just have it reasonably versatile, that you've got kind of options there. So I'm just going to literally stick this Matchbox top, just checking how kind of wide that was, as you know, comparison to the strip of paper. So literally we will just pop that on like that. Okay, ta-da! So that's it, finished. Now, oops, might need a bit more glue there. Don't think that glue was quite going high enough up. There's always a concern that you're actually going to stick it to the paper when you do things like this, but hopefully I'm missing the paper. So I'm going to just sway that down to the side, and then I will show you that again in a moment. But whilst we're here, what we could do is obviously kind of, I will show you one of these little mechanisms. So again, I've got my 12 by 12 sheet of paper, and literally all I did here was took a very small piece, actually probably smaller than this, and then basically folded it around like that. And then again, I took, you know, basically you're just looking for anything that you can have to actually tuck it in at the side. So I'm just going to literally rough the edges of this. Like that. And then I shall ink that up, which I thought I had actually bought a fresh ink pad. And now, of course, as with all of these things, I can't now see it. There we go. So I'm just going to replace the ink pad there. And then we'll just literally ink that up so that it looks slightly more in keeping. And then what I'm going to do on this one, that's my doorbell. I'm going to have to ignore it, I think, because I don't know how to rejoin a video from my iPad. So, but now I obviously, because I was thinking about the doorbell, I've now glued the wrong piece of the paper. Gosh, I do apologise for this. This was not how this tutorial was supposed to go. Right, let me wipe that clean, because obviously I was thrown by the, what I can only assume is the postman knocking. Yeah, I just heard him posting something through. Okay, so we're going to pop that on there like that. And then I should just ink up this kind of matchbox top. Like that. And we're just going to pop that to the side. Now obviously with the other one, I did actually pop some lace under there as well. I haven't really got kind of an ideal shaped piece of lace. Because obviously I wasn't intending really on doing this, but let me just have a look through my pile of things that I've got beside me ready for doing my next part of my Gypsy Rose journal. So just going to try that. I just trim the edge of this off. Oh, good, the postman's gone, so I can try and be a bit calmer now. I just thought, oh no. Sometimes they kind of ring about 3 times, and then it makes me feel terribly guilty that I should really go and answer the door. Well, I mean, obviously, normally I would answer the door unless I'm actually, you know, doing a video or something like that. But, right. Now, the next thing, have I got anything to actually use to ink this up? Let me just tear out a page from this book beside me. And as I always say, you know, laughing really, I'm not trying to protect my work surface from getting messy, because obviously it is messy already. I'm protecting it because I don't want the ink then coming off on every single thing that I do. So that's why I'm doing that. Right, now I'm going to pop my hot glue in place of the sewing machine. So obviously that's going to take a few minutes to actually, you know, heat up. So I'll just pop that there, because this lace is obviously very kind of, you know, what's the word? Frayed, sticking up. So it may require a bit of kind of extra help with the hot glue, I'm thinking. So I'm kind of just going to pop that down like that. So while we wait for obviously the hot glue gun to kick in, I will get my little corner stamp and just show you how I did the corners, or how I did the decoration up the edges. So this is my little corner stamp, and I'm just going to stamp here in this corner. And then basically what I did, I stamped up in this corner like that, and then I took this back section of the stamp and just kind of ran that down along the edge, so that I had a kind of continuation of a stamp, oops, running all the way down. So I hope that kind of made sense. And then I'm just going to ink around here, just to kind of make it look a little bit more rustic on the edges. Oops, forgot to dab that off. So now I've got a great big... Well, what I have to do is blend that in with some water and a brush, if I remember, later on. But obviously I definitely haven't got things like that with me for the tutorial, so I can't do that now. Okay. And we'll have this kind of like that. So just waiting literally for the glue to dry. So the glue to heat up. So while I'm doing that, we'll do the final one, which obviously I'm going to bind this one with string. So I've got my ball of string here to the side. And then what I do is obviously tie it so that I know that I've got enough. Oops, like that. And then just cut it off. And then all I'm going to do is run some glue straight down the back of this middle one. Like that. Okay, and then we'll wait for that one to dry. And I mean, obviously what we could do is do this one like we talked about with the having it up the other way. So whilst we're waiting for that to dry, what we could do is actually glue these on. So literally, if I kind of glue along the bottom edge of this one here, and then just along here, like that, and then literally we're going to glue along the bottom of the next one, and then I'll just glue down the edge of that one. Then I'll just wipe that with the tissue. That's it. And then obviously we can tie that together with the string. And then what I can do now, because now I've got a solid run here, I hope that makes sense, the solid run. What I mean is, because before these were kind of loose flaps, where now they're kind of held down, I can obviously glue the string the full length of the piece, if that makes sense to you. And I mean, obviously I don't actually even need to glue that. Sorry, not glue. I don't actually need to stitch that. I can just leave that glued. So what I will do, while we're still waiting for the glue to heat up, is we can then stamp again, just like we did with the other one. Stamp the corners. And then I'll just run that stamp just like we did with the other one in a kind of straight line going down the edge, just so as we've got like a continuation of the stamping, really. And I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect, you know, because nobody's going to be scrutinising it. I've got ink on my fingers as well. So that's kind of that. And then what I'm going to do is I may have this one in my Gypsy Rose journal, so I may just kind of decorate it up when I come back to doing that video. I have got some little bits beside me, so I'll just see if I've got some kind of things that we can decorate this up instantly with. And I don't feel like this is cheating, because hopefully, kind of, if you watch my videos, you know, and you're a kind of regular watcher, then it's kind of crafting along, you know, for the Gypsy Rose series anyway. So we'll just go along there. Like that. We can just kind of glue that one there. So we just literally pop it down. And then just to kind of make it look a little bit more kind of grungy and rusticy, we'll just then ink up the edges slightly of the actual kind of paper itself. Again, I mean, you don't have to do that. It's just, you know, I like it when it looks really kind of vintagey and old. So that's that one. So I'm just going to kind of move that to one side for a moment. And I might put it on the book so that it's kind of drying. So if you recall, we kind of weighed that one down earlier. So again, while I'm just waiting for the hot glue to dry, what we could do now is ink up this. So I'll just pop that under there. Like that. And then we'll just ink up the kind of book itself. And I mean, obviously the corners aren't essential that you stamp them, but I think they look really pretty. So I will just stamp those because I think it just finishes it off really nicely. And actually I'm going to undo this. Oh, that's where I find I have in fact glued it on. The one thing I said I was trying not to do, I have done now. So I will just snip these little pieces off. That's fine. And obviously just ink that up. Like that. So I moved these out of the way just so that I don't stamp any corners on there, just in case the kind of corner stamp was longer than I realised. So like that. And we'll just go along the edge like that. So super cute. And obviously when we open it up, you've got those pockets there. So I would just kind of demonstrate those. Let me find something to pop in them. And obviously it needs to be kind of reasonably short so that it's not overhanging here. So we'll just pop in. Not sure this one's going to be quite short enough, to be honest, but oh, it is. There we go. And we fold that over, and obviously you can tuck that just into there, which then holds it closed. So that's that one. So hopefully the hot glue now is ready to go. So then we can just literally pop this one down. So what I would do, just going to glue it down like that because we actually did ink this up. This is very frayed kind of lace piece, which I love the look of because it obviously looks super super rusticy and vintage, but obviously it's kind of not the easiest to work with. So I'm just going to kind of add the glue direct to the lace rather than to the page, because if I add it to the page, the chances are I'm going to actually get just the holes of the lace rather than the lace itself. Then we'll just have bits of hot glue showing all over the paper. So we'll just pop that down. Now, got hot glue on my hands just to join the ink there. I would just look lovely when I go on the school run later. Right. There we go. And then what I will do, just because obviously this is a tutorial and we want it just sped up slightly, is I will just literally hot glue the match top down so that we're nice and speedy. So we want it kind of to about this line here. Like that. Just pop it on like this. There we go. That just tucks in like that. There we go. So if I just kind of show you basically just a quick overview of what we have just made, then hopefully it will kind of all become clear, because I know that that tutorial was slightly all over the place. So obviously we were trying to make these little booklet pockets things like that. And obviously to begin with, I just came and showed you these three that I had already done. So I moved those to one side, but the three that we have just made, I'll just bring this one back, are these three here. So we've got a kind of shorter one, which obviously that just needed to be shorter to accommodate the 12 by 12 closure. And then we've got these two slightly longer ones. So we've got this one, which obviously you open out like that, and you've got the obviously 3 pages, and then the big pockets here, which you've just got, let me check that I'm in frame, which you've just got the pockets there. So that's that one. That just goes in like that. Then we've got this one here, which this one closes by this little mechanism at the bottom. We just popped on some lace trim and this little matches box top there, and then it folds back like that. And this one we left as the kind of 3 pages separate, rather than kind of making pockets. So that's that one. And obviously, you know, you could always kind of make them into pockets as per the others that we've made. So that's that one. And then finally we made this one obviously with the string. So you've just got the string closure like that. And then we've got the pockets here. And do you know what I've done? Totally forgot that we were actually going to do this one up this way, weren't we? We talked about, and I literally must have completely forgotten and still done it, you know, the other way, but that's absolutely fine. But it just, I have to chuckle because I'd only just that second said it, and obviously then totally forgot, because the ones I've made so far have been this way up. I was obviously just automatic mode and kind of did it that way anyway. So you've got obviously your 2 pockets here, and then again you can just glue it down here and you've got a side pocket. So I mean, I just think they're pretty fun, and I think you know, you've got quite a bit of journaling space in those. You know, yeah, I think they're quite fun. And I mean, actually you could also, sorry, I'm now standing up, so I'm not really kind of able to reach this very well, so that's why I'm now not able to do that up. But I'm just having a look, and I hadn't really noticed this before. But what you could also do, oh, I'm just trying to find something that's small enough, but I'd only just spotted it. You could also pop things in here, kind of when it's closed. You could also pop things in there. This one, you could pop things behind, so it's like a belly band. And again, this one here, you could kind of pop things in, kind of poking around. So I think they're quite versatile, quite fun, and yeah, hopefully kind of I will use a few of those in some up and coming journals. So hope it wasn't too scatty. I know it did get a bit frantic, but you know, I hope it wasn't kind of too confusing. So thanks very much for watching, and I hope that you have fun trying them. As always, you know, feel free to use these in journals, you know, in your own journals, in journals that you sell. You know, I would find that really flattering and be really thrilled to kind of see anyone do their take on them. So yeah, thanks very much and have a nice day. See you later. Bye.